That may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Alright guys, the reason I'm making this video is just like all these other videos that I make. I'm tired of answering this question. I mean, I probably receive about 10 DMs a day on Patreon and Discord just answering, hey, what is the cost to trade down from the first round in the startup draft? What is the cost to trade up? What should I be looking to do? Should I be the team trading down and accumulating draft assets? Or should I go kind of a little bit of studs and duds and really load up my team at the very top? And I think this is the #1 thing that is kind of plaguing our dynasty minds at this time of the year. Because way back when, I mean, we're talking 2014, 2015, dynasty fantasy football was ridiculous. It was so easy to win these dynasty leagues, specifically the dynasty startup drafts. I'm sure that we have a good amount of people watching this video right now that were playing dynasty back in 2014. And y'all remember, I mean, the price that you could get for trading down in a startup draft was absurd. I mean, if you had a top 3 pick in your startup draft, you could trade it for a late second, an early third, and a future first round rookie pick. That was the going price. I mean, that is what you saw in almost every single league when someone decided to trade down. So back in 2014, 2015, 2016, even 2017 and 2018, if you saw me drafting in a startup draft, you would go, holy crap, he's not picking in the first, he's not picking in the second round, but he has 4 third-round picks, he has multiple fourths, he has multiple fifths, and he has future first-round draft picks. And that was the winning strategy. But the #1 thing I can tell when I'm going out here and listening to some other dynasty analysts when they are kind of talking about this topic is they aren't playing in real dynasty leagues. They aren't playing in the leagues that you are playing in, because they are kind of advising you to go out here and implement this same strategy today. Whereas if you play in a real dynasty league, and if these quote-unquote dynasty analysts actually played in leagues themselves, they would understand this. You can't get anything close to that price when you trade down now. If you are trading down, you are not going to get half of that value, because when you are in that startup draft now in 2021, and this even started back in 2019 when people started to realize the trend of how valuable trading down was in their startup drafts. Since then, over the past 3 years, it's almost impossible to be able to accumulate those future rookie picks and just a ton of picks in rounds 3, 4, and 5. I mean, maybe if you get in a league where people really don't understand what they're doing, then you can easily accomplish that right out of the gate. But if you are in a startup draft today, what you are seeing in the league chat is you're saying, hey, I want to trade down from 104, send me offers. Nobody sends offers. And then the next guy's up on the clock and he goes, hey, I'm looking to trade down from 105, send me offers. Then nobody sends offers. And you do this for rounds and rounds and rounds, as really nobody is looking to trade up. And I think because of this trend, now is the time where I've always been an advocate of trading down. I think we have to make a pivot here. I think we have to go, at what point is the value too good to pass up on, where now we are actually going to be looking at packaging maybe a future pick as well as a pick in the middle rounds to get up there and get a premium player in rounds 1, 2, or 3. But in this video, I'm going to try to kind of dive in on when you want to trade down and when you want to trade up. And let's focus in on trading down first, just because I think that's what a lot of people who are watching this video are comfortable with already doing. And when we are trading down, the #1 piece of advice that I can give you is, even though it's going to be a lot more expensive to trade down and your haul is going to be a lot less than it would have been in the past, is it can still be profitable. But it has to be specific league formats. The best example that I can give y'all right now is a few days ago, I was talking with Victor on Patreon, and we were talking about his most recent Dynasty startup draft, where he has 14 players that he is needing to put in his starting lineup, and this is a 12-man league. And I'm sure a lot of people watching this video right now are playing in formats that are very similar to this, as this is going to continue to be a more and more popular format where you have to start 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends, and then you have a crap ton of flex spots. And in those leagues where depth is crucial, that is where you need to be trading down. Not only should you be trading down, but your goal while you trade down is you need to accumulate extra draft picks, extra players that you're going to be able to slide in that starting lineup. I mean, a guy that does not have a ton of value in a league where you're only starting about 8 or 9 players, but is someone that is a difference maker in a league where you're starting 14 players, is a guy like Tyler Boyd. And that's pretty much the best example that I can give you, where if you are trading down and you're able to pick up an extra 5 Tyler Boyd type receivers, where through your bye weeks, while other teams in your league are going to be going out there and putting in players like David Moore, I think when you have an accumulation of those wide receiver 3s for this format, that is how you can get an edge during this season, especially with injuries and yada, yada, yada. So if we are going to be looking to trade down, first thing we have to do is we have to understand our league format, and we have to try to trade down and accumulate assets in the leagues where we have deep starting lineups, because depth is going to be very important. But my favorite thing to do when we trade down at the same time is go through and kind of map out the draft board. This is very similar to what I just talked about in understanding your league settings. Here, if you understand those league settings and you go, you know what I think is going to be the cheat code in this league is stacking up on low-end wide receiver 2s, what you should do then is you should hop in some Dynasty mock drafts with the flock. We are doing Dynasty mock drafts on this channel all the time. Just make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have that bell hit next to the subscribe button. Kind of go through some of these mocks. Go, okay, we know that wide receivers are going to be flying off the board in rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. And if I think that running backs in this format are going to be a little bit overvalued and wide receivers are going to be a little bit undervalued, in that case, what you want to go do is you want to be trading your first round pick where the running backs are going to be selected, and you want to stack up on those middle rounds where you're going to have the wide receivers like Calvin Ridley go off the board. And what's the best thing to do here is not only stack up on those picks, but try to get some extra rookie picks thrown in. If you can just stockpile second, third round rookie picks as you move down the draft board, what that is going to allow you to do is that's going to allow you to have backup ammo, where if you see a player falling later on in the draft and you're like, you know what, he's not going to get to me, I want to have him on my team, you're then able to take a later round draft pick that you have with one of those second round rookie picks that you may have traded for, package them together, and then go up and get your guy. But hopefully that made sense in trading down in startups. Let me kind of slide over real quick and talk about the strategy on when we are looking to trade up in Dynasty startup drafts. And I'm going to be completely honest here, guys. I have rarely ever traded up in a Dynasty startup. I mean, it is something that I rarely do. But like I said, I mean, this is the case of just trying to stay ahead of the curve, and really what everybody else is doing is generally going to be a losing strategy, because once someone identifies where the value is in Dynasty Fantasy Football and kind of comes on with their airways and says, hey, you know what? There's a ton of value with trading down. Here is why. Then everybody and their mom decides to go and do that one thing where maybe the balance is tipped, where then what actually could be the value is trading up. So this is obviously going to be league dependent. But if you were going to be deciding to trade up in your Dynasty startup draft, I think there are some rules that we need to be going through. When you are trading up, I really do not like to map out like we did earlier when we were trading down. I don't want you trading up into the second round of a startup with a couple mid-round picks if you think the value is there until that pick is on the clock. Because even if you map out and go, okay, I think I can get a Justin Jefferson at this pick, and then you trade for it 6 picks before it's on the clock, really, you did yourself a massive disservice. What I would rather do is I would rather just go and DM the owner of that pick and say, hey man, I have my eye on a player falling right now. If he makes it to your pick, this is the offer I would be willing to do. So please don't make your selection if you would like this offer until I have given you the clear good to go. Because once you do that, you kind of lose the risk of trading up for a player that you may not even be able to get. So you can kind of prearrange a deal. Just make sure you're very transparent with the other owner that you're only willing to go through with it if player X is on the clock. And honestly, I would not even point out who player X is. I would go, hey man, please just don't pick right away. Don't put a pre-draft selection in there. Let me shoot you a DM saying yes or no if my player is still on the clock, because maybe that owner does not want to make that deal. But if you point out your player, then he goes, oh crap, Justin Jefferson is a value in this range. Let me then go take Justin Jefferson myself, and you lose out on the opportunity of trading up for player X. Whereas if you tell him, hey, if player X is available, I would like to trade for your pick, and say Jefferson then falls to the 308, and then you DM him, say, hey, can we do the deal? He goes, no, I like someone, and then he goes out and he takes DK Metcalf. Well, what that does for you is that means you can then go and you can DM the owner who had the 309 in the startup draft and go, hey man, I'll be willing to give you this deal because Jefferson is still on the clock. Obviously, you're not telling him, you're going after Justin Jefferson. And then you can kind of do that as you chase the player down the draft board if you think there's no chance that the player will make it back to you. And that's my second point that we are going to have when we are trading up in these Dynasty startup drafts is, please guys, only be trading up if you go, you know what, the chance that this player makes it to my next pick is less than 5%. I mean, I think that it's almost impossible that Justin Jefferson will make it to my next pick if I do not go up there and trade for him right now. Now, our next rules that we are going to be talking about with trading up are really two rules. And one is, do not trade up to end the run. Do not trade up to get the last quarterback 2 off the board. Because when you do that, generally, you are going to be overpaying for that pick. Usually, when you are ending a run on a player, you are kind of just reaching dependent on your team need and dependent on you being scared of what else is on the board. And I am talking about this all the time on Patreon. My #1 pet peeve. And I promise you, I know I sounded like an ass whenever I went through and probably have sent this message to about 10 different people, but telling them, hey, calm the hell down. I don't care that you don't have a running back 2. It's February. You don't need to set a starting lineup for another 5-6 months. What are you talking about your starting lineup here for? No, what you are doing is you are getting your guys, you are making sure you are trying to maximize value on your roster, but what we are not trying to do is make sure we have a pretty starting lineup. So when you're trading up, don't be doing so with the motivation of getting the last player in a tier at a certain position, or don't be doing so to make sure that you quote unquote fill your team needs, because there are no team needs right now. It is February. Now, thank you guys. I really hope y'all enjoyed this video. I know we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on these strategy type videos before, but let me know if y'all want me to continue making strategy videos or a little bit more of player evaluations. I've played Dynasty for a very long time now. I've played in a ton of leagues, almost every single league format outside of IDP. I mean, I'm comfortable with almost every single starting lineup requirement, with almost every single scoring format at the same time. So if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, and I'm going to be trying to answer as many as I can. And yeah, thank you. As always, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I don't know why you haven't if you made it through a 14-minute long video. And yeah, I'll see y'all with the next one.